Please tell us your name.
My name is Elaine Molly.
Thanks for doing this today.
Sure.
Tell me something great and positive about reaching this milestone of 60.
Just one thing? There's so many really fun things. You know, the best part is that my days are mine, that I wake up in the morning and I do whatever makes me happy, whatever makes me feel productive, whatever I want to do. But then right next to that is it's spending quality time with my grandkids. Absolutely. I'm really grateful to have this chance in my life while I'm still young and healthy, and I have energy to be with them. They're 8 and 10. So I go on the field trips, and spend days with them in the summer. It's just great.
And you said young and healthy. Tell me what the word old means to you then.
Old probably means not being able to do so many things anymore. So I feel like I'm young as long as I can ride my bike and keep up with those kids. When the day I can't keep up with them anymore, that's the day I feel like I'll have to admit that I'm old.
And what does the word retirement mean? Does it have a different image, say when you were 20 years old as, maybe a couple of years ago?
Yeah, certainly, when I watched my grandparents retire and my parents retire, they retired because they'd reached the limit. They finally hit that mark that said that they could start to receive Social Security. That's what retirement meant. And that, their company, it was okay with their company for them to go now, it was kind of a release. But I don't feel that way at all. This is more about our terms, my terms, and what I want to do with the rest of my life. And I also feel like it's payback for working so hard when I was young, because when other people as young people were off and traveling and doing things, I already had kids that I needed to take care of and provide a living for. I needed to make a living to provide for them is what I mean to say. So I was working really hard as a young person. And so now this is kind of my reward for that is to not have to work so hard now.
And are your friends retired? A lot of your friends?
More and more of them every year are retiring. I'd say probably 25 to 30% of us are retired already.
And do they have the same attitude that you have, do you think, about what retirement is?
Well, certainly the ones who have already retired have the same attitude that I do. Those who are still hanging in there, just it's not clear to them what they'll be doing all day. Or there is a commitment, that's a financial commitment, or they had children later than I did that they still need to provide for and send to college. So kind of just depends where you're at.
And do you think that retirement means, before you reach retirement, that you feel the need to accomplish certain things before you retire?
Well, that's the other gift about retirement, is that not needing to feel like you need to accomplish something. That you're working towards that next promotion or the next job or the next step in that career ladder. It's fine. It's done. I don't need to achieve anymore career-wise. I'm happy and proud of what I've accomplished in my working life, and it's time to be okay with that and that it's enough.
That pressure of having to work for corporate America or whatever is, that's the pressure of that gone is probably just fantastic.
I spent my career in the nonprofit sector, and so there it's gratifying because you feel like you're making a difference, but that's also kind of what holds you there because it's the mission. You can't leave the mission. This job, what you're doing, has purpose. And I continue to have purpose in my life, but I don't need to have it in that official capacity as a working person attached to a nonprofit or an organization. I get that from what I get up and do every day.
So your purpose changes, your purpose was to work for nonprofits, and your purpose now is the grandkids and
Right, and I'm still contributing to nonprofit organizations and to the issues that I care about. I'm working part-time, and I'm on committees and involved with some nonprofit organizations that I care about, and that's enough.
how do you think the two genders differ in their approach to turning 60 and or getting older?
I don't think it's a gender issue. If there's any, I think we as women, have this fear of poverty. So we're worried about, do we have enough saved up? What's enough? We tend to live longer, so we don't want to be poor old ladies. So I think that, if there's any gender difference, that's it. That's about it. And yeah. Especially this generation, because it's not like my parents' generation where dad's purpose in life was to provide the living, or provide the income for the family. We've both, in our generation, we've both been working the whole time. So it's not like when dad retired and then didn't know what to do with himself because he'd never been home. We both have that.
In saying that, though, don't you think that men still feel that way once their job is gone, once they retire or they change job and then that job ends? You don't think that they still feel kind of that way, like, now what do I do? And
No, I wouldn't say that. Not the men I know. They all have a plan of what to do, and a lot of the men I know have been active in the community. In addition to their work, they have interests besides their job. So I believe that what you're saying is true in past generations, but not so true for mine.
okay, that's a great answer. That's one I hadn't heard before, so I like that. What things do you think are more important to you now than they were perhaps 10 years ago? Just 10 years ago.
What's more important to me?
What's more important to you now?
I don't know. I think the same things are important to me. What's important to me is that what's important to me is letting go of the things I don't want to do anymore and recognizing what those are. And be giving myself the permission to say, you don't have to do that just because somebody asked you to. You don't have to do that.
So do you think that's an age thing? I mean,
I think that's the part of the pressure or part of the release of not working. As a working professional woman, I was involved in all kinds of women's networking organizations and everything else, because I felt like that's what I had to do, that was part of furthering my career. And while I, have many friends and have an active social life, I don't feel like I need to do those things anymore.
you can do things just because you want to do them.
Right.
1 second, we'll let the motorcycle go by.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, the windows didn't help.
No, not the motorcycles. Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay.
But what's important, the other thing to me that it's important is that I explore my own creativity. I didn't have time to do that as a full-time working professional. I'm writing, I spend more time at art museums. It's giving myself that permission and the time and space to be creative in ways that never happened before.
Were you always creative, but because of the time constraints and kids and jobs, you weren't able to tap into it?
I don't think I gave myself the time to explore that. Certainly I was creative in my job and in my work, but I started to get interested in writing maybe 20 years ago, and I'd take a little workshop here and there, but I, would pick it up for a little while and stop because there was just no time to work on it. The creative energy went into whatever was going on at work.
Do you feel you're more creative now because of that freedom?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because the stress is gone, I feel like I think more clearly. And even the people I've connected with in volunteer work, I feel re-energized. My ideas are new and fresh again. The creativity is surfacing all over the place. It's great.
That's awesome. Because you have the time and you're able to meet new people and different people that maybe you weren't able to before. So you can surround yourself with those creative types.
Right, you get support for your creativity, but just giving yourself the time and the space to be creative and to explore that side of your brain just opens up all kinds of other connections. And yes, I do have new friends. I am making new friends. Because they're involved in the creative things like the writing workshops I go to. Now we get together and write. So it's really fun. I do feel like I have made new friends.
That's awesome. I feel at this age that I've made a lot of friends in the last, say, 5 or 6 years. That I feel fortunate because I think at this age people already have their circle of friends. They're already built-in friends.
Right.
So I feel incredibly fortunate and all women, mostly women.
Yeah.
But they're all supportive and amazing and strong, and
Right.
I'm just like blown away by that. I didn't think at this stage in my life that would happen.
Yeah.
So I feel really, really lucky.
Yeah.
What about your youth? Do you feel the loss of youth or want it back in any way? Or
No, I mean, to a great extent, it's like, thank God that's over. The struggles and trying to achieve and the relationship issues and all of that, I don't mind saying goodbye to those phases of life. In this phase, it's about new friends. It's about a mature relationship. It's about not having to struggle financially. It's about relaxing, and it's about relaxing into who you really are. That's fun. That's nothing but fun.
what took us so long to get to be able to do that?
You can't. The need. If we hadn't have done what we did as young people, work hard, save money, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing now as retired people. As people who aren't actively working full time anymore, I should say. I don't like that retired people thing either. But, let me see, what was I kind of liked what I was talking about there.
Youth.
Yeah, that saying goodbye to those kinds of struggles. Yeah, we have to be smart financially now too. I didn't save piles and piles of money, but I also don't feel like I need more stuff. I don't need a new car. I don't need a motorcycle. I don't need a boat. I don't need any more toys. What I need is the free time, is the time and space to be. And so, my husband and I have talked about this. We don't know if we've saved enough money or not. It all depends. Our financial planner keeps asking us how long we think we're going to live. When I ask have we saved enough money, he says, well, how long do you think you'll live? Like, I don't know, but I at least want to have fun during the time I have left to live. So it's kind of that financial balance. Like, I should be enjoying this time and not worried about money, but then again, let's not be stupid. Let's be frugal. Let's say no to the things that aren't really meaningful to us, and enjoy this freedom as long as we can.
I like the word meaningful because I think it.
So I'm going to pause just
Sure.
for a second.
Uh-huh.
It's
You said meaningful, and I think that word is so
Right.
important.
Right. So the financial, when I ask our financial planner if we've saved enough money to retire, his response is, well, how long do you think you'll live? And of course we can't possibly know that, but I want to enjoy myself while I am healthy and alive, obviously. So it's balancing that freedom with still wanting to have a good time and not change our lifestyle drastically. So when we're spending money, it has to be on something meaningful. If it doesn't matter, then let's not bother. A new car isn't going to give me more joy than my old car. I'm perfectly happy with my 5-year-old car. So we'll see.
It's kind of how I feel. Certain things have more meaning now than they
Right.
did,
Right.
even 10 years ago.
I don't know if you're going to want to use this, but I have a son who's a professional skateboarder. He lives in California. I have always admired him so much because when everybody else was saying to him that skateboarding wasn't a job, he needed to do something else too, he needed to get a job somewhere, he kept saying, no, skateboarding is my job. Well, he has traveled all over the world. He's married, he has a baby, he has a fabulous life. And you know what? He wakes up every morning and does what makes him happy. And somehow he earns enough money to support himself and his family. He's had bands. He now writes for Thrasher magazine. I've just always admired him. So I feel like at this phase of my life, I want to be just like Sam. I want to be just like him. I want to wake up in the morning and do what makes me happy. And if somehow it winds up making a little money too, that's okay. But it's not about that anymore. It's about using my talents in ways that I find gratifying, in ways that have purpose, in ways that have meaning.
Exactly.
It's not about the paycheck anymore.
That's like a really great answer. I love that. I had something else to say about that. That's just such a great answer. It's just so, it resonates so well.
But seriously, he doesn't have a new car. He drives an old, it's an old cop car. It's hilarious. It's an big old black cop car. He drives around, but it doesn't matter. He lives in a small house. But he lives 3 blocks from the beach.
Can't beat that.
No, I want to be him.
He's a great inspiration.
He is.
For
Exactly.
all of us.
Exactly.
For all of us. To live simply and, keep it simple.
And I also feel like, in some respects, there are a lot of baby boomers. A lot of us. And some of us need to get the hell out of the way in, the career world and the working world and let younger people take over. It's their time. I don't want to be the last baby boomer hanging on, who says, no, this is the way we always did it. I've been there, done that, tried that, it doesn't work. This is how we do it. No, we need to get out of the way and let some new ideas into the workplace.
Exactly. Because we had our time. We had our large and in charge time. We did what we needed to do for the world when we were in charge of that world at that time. Let someone else take over now. That's okay. I'm okay with that as well.
Yeah.
Let's see what they can do.
Right.
And
I'll always be very proud of what I've accomplished. Very proud. But I don't need to hang in there until the bitter end. It's time for somebody else's ideas and somebody else's creativity and somebody else's work.
And people probably, generation before us, probably said the same thing about us. Hopefully. Hopefully there was a few.
I don't know. I think they were pretty much hanging on.
So after living on the planet for almost 60 years, it sounds like your philosophy of life has changed. Anything else you want to add to things you just kind of said about that?
What else do I want to say? I talked about Sam. Well, the other thing I noticed that I'm doing a lot of, or did a lot of, like the first phase, the first couple months while I wasn't working, I spent a lot of time purging. Like getting rid of all of this stuff, accumulated stuff. You go through your house and like, why did I think I needed this? That I also found very liberating. Because, I don't know if you're going to want to use it, but because we've all watched our parents age, and then we've had to do something with their stuff. And you go through your parents' stuff and you think, why on earth did they save all of this stuff? And the burden of having to unravel all of that, our parents, our grandparents. So for me, it was like something I don't want to burden my children with either. It's my job. These were my things that I thought I had to have. So it's my job to lighten this load. And it is meaningful, too, to realize that you don't need all this stuff. I found that really liberating.
Another sense of another kind of freedom, not just lightening the burden, but
Right. I had 3 closets full of clothes that I hardly ever wore. I just, at this point, I didn't outgrow them anymore and they weren't worn out, so I just kept it. You don't have to keep these things. It's part of lightening the load and giving yourself permission to live differently.
So
And I think it's symbolic of the freedom, or I think it's symbolic of the time for accumulation is over. The time for achieving, well, not achieving, but the time for accumulating stuff is done. We have enough stuff.
that's for sure. I think, yeah. This seems to be a common thread with many people I
Oh, yeah.
that I talk to, and I'm guilty of that as well. Do you think memories, getting rid of all the stuff, do you think memories then kind of are more important than the stuff?
Yeah, I think that memories are way more important than the stuff, and we don't always need the stuff to help us remember. Then again, that said, I think that's part of why I write. I write mostly memoir and humor. It's because I don't want to forget some of the meaningful, funny, inspiring things that have happened in my life, and I want to share them with my grandkids. I want them to know what a funny little guy their dad was. I want them to know that I was a really strong person when I was young and a single parent. I want them to know what I accomplished and, the challenges I had to overcome to do that.
I think that's a really great gift. I'm gonna cry now. That's a really great gift because, yeah.
The Barbara Walters moment in reverse.
Wait a minute, you're making me cry. That's not the way it's supposed to go.
In reverse.
No, it's just that's so awesome because if we don't write it down, we will forget, and we'll forget to tell them, or we will forget the memory or something. So
Right.
who's going to share that with them?
Right.
Oh,
So
no, that's pretty awesome.
I write it down.
That's great.
One of the things I started a blog since I've been retired.
You have?
Not actively working. Yes, I have.
I'd like to know what that is.
It's called Stories from My Breezeway.
Awesome. That breezeway?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Because it occurs to me, that this is the stuff. These are the stories we tell when we're sitting out there at night having a glass of wine. We tell stories, right?
Right. And who's the blog targeted? What's the market?
I don't care. I don't care who reads the blog. I just do it because I want to.
Okay.
Because it gives me the blog gives me an opportunity to put it out there into the universe, as opposed to having it in my computer, which someday might be completely lost.
Right. This is great. In thinking of the end of your life, how has your perspective changed over the decades? Death, dying, that kind of end of life topic that sometimes we don't perhaps like to talk about.
Well, I think when you're young, there are so many days ahead of you that you don't worry about it. You can procrastinate. Oh, I'll do that tomorrow, or someday I'm going to do this, someday I'm going to do that. Well, now it's like, we don't know, like my financial planner wants me to know. We don't know how much time we have. So we have to make our days count. every day needs to count. You know, I want to go to bed at night feeling pleased at the way I spent my day. And it doesn't mean I have to travel all over the globe or, you know, conquer every little tiny fear I've ever had, but it means I want to live my life with meaning.
Do you think about death?
I do think about death more than I used to, and because, you know, in part because we know more people who are dying at this age. You know, my parents are still alive. My mother-in-law died last year. My grandparents are all dead now. But I also feel like the way I feel about death is that it's okay. You know, that I'm proud of the way I lived my life. I had meaning in my life. I had a life full of love and joy. And if a doctor told me tomorrow that I didn't have long to live, I would be okay with that too.
So you're not afraid?
I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of dying. I certainly, you know, want to live as long as I can to enjoy, you know, the love of my grandsons and to watch them evolve as people. And I'm not done writing stories, but I'm not afraid either.
In saying all that, other than your blog and your writing and your grandchildren, anything else in store for you, the next phase of your life? Anything you feel is unfinished? Anything you feel the need to do?
I feel the need to do.
Or want to do?
This isn't exactly an answer to that question, but I feel like the other thing that I want more of is solitude. You know, as in our working lives, we spend our whole days with other people, or at least I did. So you almost know your coworkers better than you know your husband and friends and relatives, because you spend 8 hours or more a day with them. But what I've craved, and I still don't get enough of, is solitude, meaning just time, quiet time, uninterrupted by myself to think and write and be.
How will you attain that?
The only way to get it is to plan for it and make it happen. So, I mean, that's one of the things I want to do a better job at is, you know, I don't mean that I would sacrifice my time with my grandkids or some of the other things that I do, but meaning planning purposefully to have more solitude, more time for reflection. You know, it's kind of the craving of spirituality. You know, we go to yoga class, and maybe meditation helps that too, but it's spending some time in solitude, I think.
Solitude I think is awesome. I think it helps you to look inward and kind of see who you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anything else you have to add?
No, that's...
I have one final question. What's the capital of Utah?
I have no idea. Salt Lake City?
Yes, correct.
How am I supposed to know that?
No, it's just a funny question.
That was a trick question.
That was a trick
Yes.
question. Probably wasn't too tricky. You did a good job.
And
Do you want me to ask? And
you can ask
or
real
answer?
questions, and then if you go into an answer, that's great. Or even if you just start an answer, this is really just kind of like behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But if something strikes you that you want to talk about, then
Okay.
definitely. Okay.
How do you think the two genders different in their approach to turning 60?
Oh, that question again. I don't really think they do. So I might disagree with your other interview subjects, but I don't really see much difference between men and women now, like it did in my parents' generation.
I just feel like men have a harder time because they're connected to a job for so long, and they identify their job is them. Is their identity. I don't know.
I'm not buying that because I think women have worked as long and as hard as men connected to our jobs, or if not the job at that's, to our careers. So I just really don't see the difference. Plus, men have been more involved in their kids, with their kids' lives and things than the generation before us. So I'm not buying it.
What about the idea of women afraid to get old because the notion of women afraid to get old because of their looks fading and that kind of thing? Is that relevant anymore?
Well, we all want to be sirens until we die, right?
Sirens. Love that.
Absolutely. But I also don't feel, I, I feel permission to have gray hair, and I love my gray hair, and I'm not going back. So it's, I feel a lot more relaxed around my appearance, especially since I've retired. I hardly wear makeup anymore, ever. I mean, once or twice a week, maybe if I'm going to something, but spend all day in my yoga clothes with my hair in a braid and no makeup on. It's perfect.
What does the word old mean to you?
The word old. The word old is somebody who's at least 10 years older than me. The word old is, people in their 80s, not people who are 59.
What things are more important to you now compared to, say, 10, even 15 years ago?
Forgot what I said about that question.
You don't have to match it. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
What's important to me?
What's important? What's important to you? What takes priority these days?
What's important to me is playing. Playing with my grandkids, playing with my friends, just having time for play.
Here's a question I don't even think I asked. What advice would you give to younger people about turning 60?
Relax. It's okay. In fact, it's fabulous.
I like that.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if I should ask another one. Or...
No, that's